they have been working on a fantastic thing where the mark of the beast will be put on and in the skin of the right hand or the forehead. Now the Greek in Revelation 13, in the right hand or in the forehead, comes from the Greek word epi, which means upon, but in, showing that it is externally applied. See? Now, here's what they are doing with these electronic circuits so they can be integrated to your skin, right into your skin. Now, this is from an article that comes out of the University of Illinois and from the Science magazine. A team of engineers today announced a discovery that could change the world electronics forever, called an epidermal electric system, or EES. It's basically an electric circuit mounted on your skin designed to stretch, flex, and twist, and to take input from the movements of your body. And once it puts it inputs into this not quite invisible, but it's like a tattoo, it can also send a signal so it can be monitored. The EES is a leap forward for wearable technologies and has potential applications ranging from medical diagnosis to video game control and accelerated wound healing. Engineers John Roger and Todd Coleman, now they're working in conjunction with Chinese in China and also in Singapore. I think it's Taiwan and Singapore, who worked on the discovery, and it is, here's how they number it, IO9, TEL-IO9, TEL-IO9. It's a huge step towards erasing the divide that separates machine and human. Coleman and Rogers say they develop EES to forego a hard, rigid electronic wafer format of the traditional electronics in favor of a softer, more dynamic platform. So, as you will see, we'll run in a little bit, we will show you some pictures of these things, and then we will also have inserted that we got off of YouTube a report by one of the Chinese scientists who's developing this. The video demonstrates the resilience of the EE patch and how easily it can be applied. Now remember what we talked about before, how in Salt Lake City is the test city for 5 years on wave technology. That is the technology in your cell phone. Just pass it by the reader and the transaction already happens. Goes in there, takes the money right out of your bank. I mean, the days of depositing a check on Friday and running to the bank Monday morning to cover it, they're over. Can't do that anymore. You either have the money in the bank or you don't. I remember over here at Nob Hill the first time they instituted their no-check technology. Dolores would shop there, she'd write a check and give it to him. So one day she was in there, and the man ran the thing through the part of the electronic recording device, handed her back her check. She said, "What's this for?" Said, "We don't take checks anymore." No, we don't. Now they even have it, you can take your smartphone, lay your paycheck out, take a picture of it, call up your bank account, deposit it. don't even have to go to the bank anymore. Okay? Pretty soon, you can be anywhere. All right? The video demonstrates the resilience of the EE patch and how easily it can be applied. It's just like washing your skin and then putting it on. The patch is comprised of circuitry and rubber substrate, is first mounted on a thin sheet of water-soluble plastic, then applied to the skin with water like a temporary tattoo. Remember the little kiddies, you know, get these little tattoos and put them on their arms and say, you know, you get a little Popeye and Mickey Mouse, stuff like that. Well, not going to be that way much longer, okay? So this came out in this week's issue of Science magazine, and the researchers illustrated the adaptability of their concept by demonstrating functionally in a wide array of electronic components, including biometric sensors, that is, they can check your heart, check your liver, check your eyes, check your spleen, all can come right out of that little patch and go right to the doctor. LEDs, what are those? Those are lights, aren't they? Okay. Transistors, radio frequency capacitors, and wireless antennas, and even conductive coils and solar cells for power. A little tired? Stick it under here. Woo! Oh man, I feel a whole lot better. I'm not sleepy now. That's going to put 5-hour energy out of business, right? All right. We asked Rogers what he thought were the most promising applications for the new technology. He said medicine was the most compelling. That is until they figure out buying and selling. Our paper demonstrates our ability to monitor ECG, a monitor of heart disease and metabolism, EMG, a measure of, among other things, gait walking during your walking. See? Okay. How far apart are your steps? How frequent are your steps? You know, if you got Parkinson's disease, you stumble along. And if you are healthy, you can take big strides. Are you running? Are you jogging? Are you running in place? All of those. We've also shown that these same devices can stimulate muscle tissue to induce contractions. They will finally overcome the severed nerve syndrome when someone breaks their back. When combined with sensing and monitoring, such modes of use could be valuable in physical rehabilitation. We also have interest in sleep monitoring for sleep apnea, neonatal care. Oh, put it right. Oh, don't you want to know what's happening to your baby? Oh, yes, just put it right here. How's the baby doing? Well, it's sleeping right now. Okay. Monitoring premature babies in particular. According to Rogers, the electric skin has already been shown to monitor patients' health measurements as effectively as the conventional state-of-the-art electrodes that require bulky pad straps and irritating adhesive gels. You ever visited anyone in intensive care? You walk in and they've got a stand here and they got a defibrillator here and it's going into the arm. They have another band around the head and that's running the machine over here checking the head thing and the heart thing and all of that sort of thing. And then you have something else over here. I know I saw a man who was in intensive care and he was wired up and hooked up and strapped and everything like that. Plus he had a breathing tube down his nose, could hardly breathe. Hey, they'll just put a strip on you and it'll take care of everything. Okay? Fidelity of measurement with this is equal to the best existing technology that is out there today, but in a very unique skin-like form. Isn't that something? Okay, we'll show you some of the pictures in just a little bit. Within the realm of biomedical applications, one can imagine providing benefits to patients. Now, there is always a benefit. Remember, Satan always tells you the benefit. If you eat of this fruit, you'll become like God. Doesn't tell you the adverse effects. This is good for medical things, but wait until the economics of merchandising come in. It'll be even better. One can imagine providing benefits for patients with muscular and neural disorders such as ALS, for example. In the Science article, our research group used the device to control a computer strategy game with muscles in the throat by speaking silently the commands. Now, you could have a lot of cheating going on with that, couldn't you? You know, have you ever seen how they, you know, these poker games they have on television? Well, you could have someone far away sit there and you wouldn't even know it. Just tell them what the other man's hand is. Now, they also say that they can use this for spies. That they can be out there and they can report to headquarters by just vocalizing in their throat. No one knows what's going on. Instantaneous report. For example, yes, to control, yes, by speaking the commands. All right, continuing now. In principle, the same function could have been achieved by simply mouthing the commands rather than speaking them out loud. So you could do it both, silent, mouth, or out loud. As such, this capability could be applied to ALS patients so that they could speak through an epidermal electronic system that is unnoticeable to them and visible to the observers. Now here's a subtitle: Eroding the Distinction Between Machine and Human. Outside the context of the biomedicine, the EEC inconspicuous nature opens up a whole world of possibilities. And I think this will be, you've heard of the term Pandora's box? That's what it will be. The patches are already barely noticeable. When mounted directly onto a temporary tattoo, for example, any evidence of electric circuitry disappears, yet still works. Anything they can imagine, they will do, right? This technology provides a huge conceptual advance in wedding the biological world to the cyber world in a manner that is very natural. Now, I read a book. It was called The Biology of Belief. And this biologist got into what it then is quantum physics, where then they just didn't look at a single cell through a microscope. They looked at the single cell as a structure. And they were amazed that the outer part of the living cell, even if you take out the inside of it, is still going. Meaning that they can put something else within that cell and it will function. And he also said that every one of the cells in a human body is exactly like, on a small scale, the universe. Now, think about what it says in Hebrews 11. That faith is the evidence of things not seen. Now, there's a spiritual faith that isn't seen. And that's why the mark of the beast is so condemned in the Bible, because as we will see, with the applications that they are doing, see, they could solve so many problems. We won't any longer need any prisons. We will just conform them to this setup, put it on their forehead and on their hand, and take away all criminal impulses. That be marvelous? Who could say that's a bad idea, see? All right. This, yes, I read that. I envision endless applications that extend beyond biomedical applications. For example, we could use the same technology and specifically its discrete tattoo-like appearance to perform covert military operations where an agent could communicate to the command station hundreds of miles away with these electric signals without ever speaking a word. You can't even whisper in the ear any longer, because it will be heard. Comment was made that in a movie Firefox with Clint Eastwood, when he got in to spirit off that Russian plane, that he had to have a specific helmet and he had to know Russian because the plane ran by thought, not by controls. So think on that. Just think of all the applications. Now, if a spy can send out the messages this way, what can they put in a person's mind? And with Satan in charge, does that not take away your free moral agency? Two more comments were made. Number one, you can't keep a secret any longer because they can intercept the thoughts. And number two, what was that?
Mass control by heart.
Oh, mass mind control. Yes.
Linear area network.
Yes. Okay. That's something. This sets the precedent for future technologies that aim to combine organismal to the synthetic. And that's why Ray Kurzweil said that we are going to become immortal in 2030 by these techniques with a computer. The blurring of electronics and, well, that's not really going to happen. They won't be immortal, you know. Wonder what Ray Kurzweil is going to say when he dies. Whoops. Too late. The blurring of electronics and biology is really the key point here, said Northwestern University's Yonggang Huan, and I think that's the fellow that we're going to see on the video, with whom Rogers and Coleman collaborated. All established forms of electronics are hard and rigid. Biology is soft and elastic. It's two different worlds. This is a way to truly integrate them. So here's what they want to do. Here's what the research group envisions. We would like to expand the functionality such that devices not only seamlessly integrate with the human body in a mechanical sense, but that they also communicate and interact with the tissue in modes that goes beyond electrons and protons, the currency of semiconductor device technologies, to a level of fluids and moleculars, the currency of biology, controlling life itself. We are hoping in this way to blur the distinction between electronics and the human body. in ways that can advance human health. Well, God said, obey me. What could be simpler than that? Huh? All right. Now this patch is hair thin, that electrical patch. So pluck out a hair and look at it. That's how thick it is. So there's been the team in the United States, China, and Singapore, described in the journal Science. So if you want to go online, dial up Science, Google Science, find out where it is, and you can get the whole article there. Our goal was to develop an electronic technology that could integrate with the skin in a way that is mechanically and physiologically invisible to the user. The patch could be used instead of bulky electronics to monitor brain, heart, muscle, tissue activity, and when placed in the throat, it allows the user to operate a voice-activated video game with better than 90% accuracy. Already, think what it's going to be. I mean, stop and think about when the first cell phone came out, all right? Oh, that was a great advance. Look at it now. It competes with your television and your computer. And if you have what is called sky technology, you can have all of your computer stuff up here electronically somewhere on some site, and you can run your smartphone just like a computer. Well, I tell you, this is really something. The wireless device is nearly weightless and requires so little power it can fuel itself with the miniature solar collectors, and by picking up stray or transmitted electromagnetic radiation, the study said. Amazing, right out of the body. Less than 5 microns thick, slightly thinner than a human hair, the devices are able to adhere to the skin without glue or sticky material. Forces called van der Waals interactions dominate the adhesion at the molecular level so that the electronic tattoo adheres to the skin without any glues and stays in place for hours. All right, that's the problem. It's short term right now. But don't you think they're working on long term? And don't you think Satan is right there, Johnny on the spot, helping inspire all of this? Yes, indeed. So then there's another article which shows it too. And this one shows, and we'll show this with a picture of it here in just a minute, that the one they put on the forehead is just like a spider web. Never know it. Let's see what else we have here. It's only the size of a postage stamp. It opens up a slew of previously unimaginable possibilities in the field of brain-machine interfaces well beyond biomedical applications. Well, they're all excited about this. Okay? So it's going to go forward. All right. It's a discrete tattoo-like appearance that makes it useful for covert military operations requiring the operator to communicate with a remote command station. In this scenario, the operator could mouth what he needs to say using the muscles in his throat to transmit the electronic signal. Listen to this, because this becomes important. For example, by simultaneously acquiring neural signals of many people collaborating with computers, this technology could enable the whole group to operate as a team with enhanced capabilities. Will they allow this in sports? Think about that. Well, the Raiders need that, don't they? They're dysfunctional, aren't they? It is powered by embedded solar cells or by inductive coils that can be used to generate current wirelessly. They are powered by the body movements, batteries, wireless communicators for uploading data or commands. One major downside, they got to solve this one, is that the continual shedding of skin cells means that the patch falls off after a few days. Now, they've got to overcome that. So they're looking for ways around that so they can be worn for months at a time. But what if they figure out a way to make this permanent? Now, we will show you the pictures, and we will play a 3-minute video for you to watch. We'll insert that here at this point.
We have always been interested in to integrate electronics conformally with human body. Right now, the electronics really get smaller and faster, but we want to add one more function to make electronic curvilinear, soft, elastic, so it can be integrated with human body. And the idea we came up is to make electronics not in the rigid form, but in the wavy form, so it can be stretched like a rubber band. This way we can integrate with electronics with the skin and put on the human body. Tattoo, you can easily put on the human surface, skin here, by successfully removing the cover. Then the electronic gets attached very well to the human skin without penetrating it. It's really just electronic on the surface of the human skin without using any glues. Such a method will enable us to really monitor the medical conditions of the carrier. For example, we can monitor because the electronic has EKG, it can really monitor the heart condition, and it can monitor temperature, it can monitor many things. The key is that it's so thin that the carrier does not even feel like it has it. Then you have the electronic that can be subject to all kinds of deformation. For example, you can really compress your skin. Clearly, the electronic can survive this kind of compression, still functioning. It's really wireless. You don't need to hook to any kind of electric outlet. This is a tattoo with a clear logo of the University of Illinois logo there, and the electronic is really underneath the tattoo. And you can remove the tattoo, and the electronics are really behind it. That very thin layer. You can use it for surveillance. You have a thin electronic put on the skin. It will last 24 hours, and you can just have like a tattoo. You can hide everything here. It can send signals out. It's just a very cool device. It really, not only has touched the fundamental science, but also has a lot of practical applications. That's the fun part.
Now here is the first picture. You can see how small that chip is. And if you look carefully, you will see the clear plastic around it. But you see, what's going to happen is people are going to look at that and say, well, what is the Bible making such a big deal of this for? This is really a good thing. All right, let's look at some other applications here. This is a picture.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is a picture of how it will be applied to the forehead. And it's right in the forehead, right where the cerebral cortex is, so when they perfect it, they can control your thoughts. You won't be able to be yourself. Now let's take a look at another picture. This one is of a tattoo, and the chip is right in the middle here. So they may be able to get it to stick, and I think that's what they're trying to do, if they can get a tattoo which will hold it to the skin. So maybe that's what they're working on with this one, and you will also see this one on the video clip that we'll show here right in just a minute. Now, as we look at this electronic skin tattoo as a medical and gaining spy uses, comment was made that a lot of the older people in America and in the world who have read their Bibles will understand that this is the mark of the beast. Unless they have some sort of urgent medical thing, most of them will reject it who have read the Bible. However, if their faith has just been so eroded that it's worthless, then it would be something that they may submit to. But the younger generation is going to think, this is cool. Man, this is great. So here it shows the size of it. You can imagine all the different applications that they could put on the chip when you understand that with nanotechnology, with something the size of the head of a pin, you can virtually have a computer. All right, let's go to the next picture. Now here is the last picture. Notice that the application to the forehead is almost like a spider web. So they're really getting down to the nitty-gritty now. It's just a matter of time and perfection. So now you know the progress on the mark of the beast. Now we'll check some other scriptures showing what God thinks about it. Now let's look at some other things concerning the mark of the beast. Let's come to Revelation 14. And we're going to see how important and how revolutionary this is going to be and what God thinks about it. It's so important that He is going to send a special message directly to the earth at the time that they begin enforcing it. Now, I'm sure there will be a lot of voluntary uses of it. People will come and say, well, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And, you know, people will sign up and get it. Okay? Verse 6, Revelation 14. And I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation and tribe and language and people. Now that has to be when they cut off the preaching of the gospel. So this has to be sometime before the Great Tribulation takes place. Sometime right after the beast who received the deadly wound is brought back to life, and he cuts off all preaching of the gospel by ministers, because they will be enemies of the state. So God isn't going to let them get away with it. The gospel is going to be preached in that way. So we have three ways of preaching the gospel as a witness. One by the church, two by this angel, and three by the two witnesses. Now it says there in Matthew 24 that this gospel shall be preached in the whole world to all nations, then the end shall come. So it's not just left to men. So here's what the angel says. Fear God, give glory to Him, because the hour of His judgment is come, and worship Him, not the beast, who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. Verse 8. Then another angel followed, saying, the great city Babylon is fallen, because the wine of the wrath of her fornication, which she has given all nations to drink. There's going to be a warning on it. Don't get wrapped up in this system. This is the last warning to get out. Now, it's going to cost you your life to get out. But if you get out, then you will have eternal life. Now, notice the third angel. And a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, when does this have to be given? It can't be after the mark of the beast has been given. It's got to be before it's enforced. You know, you don't tell a person after the wreck is over, watch out, you're going to wreck. And he survives out of it and says, thanks a lot. You know? No. The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and the whole earth is going to, so this is the message to the whole earth, and receives the mark in his forehead or in his hand, he shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, 7 last plagues, which is mixed undiluted in the cup of his wrath, and he shall be tormented in fire and brimstone in the sight of the holy angels and of the Lamb. Now, we don't know whether they've committed the unpardonable sin at this point or not. We don't know. But with this message, it's God's judgment. He will have to make that decision. Okay? And the smoke of their torment ascends into the ages of eternity. Once the smoke escapes the atmosphere of the earth, it just goes on and on and on and on. Like yesterday, Dolores and I were watching the news, and they were giving a special report on the Mars rover. And the man said, we sent it up there with a 3-month life. And it's still operating after 7 years. See? So once it gets into space, it goes on and on and on and on. There's nothing to deteriorate it. There's nothing to make anything rot. That's why space junk is so terrible. Never goes away. So it's the smoke, not their torment forever. Okay? And those who worship the beast and his image, and all who receive the mark of his name, have no rest day or night. That is, when the wrath of God is poured out. Let's read that. Come to Revelation 16. Revelation 16. Okay? The first angel, verse 2, went out and poured out his vial onto the earth, and an evil and grievous sore fell on the men who had the mark of the beast, and upon those who were worshiping his image. That's when they have no rest day or night, from that point on. Because it says here, the wrath of God, back in chapter 14, okay, and verse 10. They have no rest day or night. Now notice the comparison and why this tells us that this has to happen before the tribulation begins. Verse 12, here is the patience of the saints. Here are the ones who keep the commandments of God. Revelation 14, verse 12. And the faith of Jesus Christ. Verse 13. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, write, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from this time forward. So that has to be at the beginning of the tribulation, martyrdom of the saints. Meaning, there's about 3.5 years plus how much lead time in advance. Yes, says the Spirit, so that they may rest from their labors and their works follow them. Okay? Then it comes down to the time of the resurrection, right after that. Okay? And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and one like the Son of Man sitting on the cloud, having a golden crown on his head, and in his hand was a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who was sitting on the cloud, "Thrust in your sickle and reap, because the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe," and that is the resurrection. Okay? Now, come to chapter 15. Says again about the mark of the beast. And why those warnings have to be before the tribulation and the unfolding of these events. Verse 2, Revelation 15. Resurrection takes place, go up to the sea of glass, and I saw a sea of glass mingled with fire, and those who had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, having the lyres of God. Now those are like harp-like instruments, okay? So this means that that warning has to be before the tribulation begins. Now, let's see another reference to it back here in Revelation 20. Now, we also have to understand this, that the beast, in the inspiration of Satan the devil, goes all the way back to creation of Adam and Eve. Did Abel have to overcome Satan? Yes. Did Enoch? Did Noah? Did Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Yes. All right. Verse 4, Revelation 20. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for the testimony of Jesus and for the word of God, and those who did not worship the beast or his image, and did not receive the mark in their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Okay? Now, so this is the real deal. They have one little problem. How can we make it permanent? And you know they will be able to solve it. Of that kind of thing. Looks good, sounds good, works for a while, and then the end comes. So we have to understand those things. So for a lot of people, this is not good news. A lot of people, they don't want to hear things like this. Speak to us smooth things. Tell us good things. Make us happy. Well, if you want that, you can watch the Sunday morning television. But if you want the truth, then you better get on God's side. So once again, thank you for inviting me into your home. Be sure and visit our other website, truthofgod.org. And you need the book, Lord, What Should I Do? That will give you a start on what you need to do, how you can come to God, how you need to repent. So until next time, this is Fred Coulter saying, so long, everyone.